Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paribrajacharya Ashtotara Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mayi Ki Jai. Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So thank you, Mukesh Prabhu, for leading us in Kirtan. And thank you, Maharaj, for being here. And thank you, everyone, for being here for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami and friends. It is Friday, December 1st, 2023. And we are reading tonight in the third canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 26, Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like we're starting tonight with text 21. I remember reading 20 on Wednesday. Can we get a consensus that 21 is where we're starting tonight? Is that correct? Yeah, Maharaj says yes. Thank you, Maharaj. All right. So let us say, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 26th chapter, text 21. I was going to ask, since Surabhi Kunj Mataji is here, would you be able to monitor the chat window? I was going to try and do a little bit of reading myself this evening, but if you're able to do that, that will be helpful. Thank you so much. Yat tat sattvagunang svachcham shantam bhagavata padam yadahur vasudevakyam chittam tan mahad atmakam. The mode of goodness, which is the clear, sober status of understanding the personality of Godhead, and which is generally called Vasudev, or consciousness, becomes manifest in the Mahat Tattva. Purport. The Vasudev manifestation, or the status of understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called pure goodness, or Shuddha Sattva. In the Shuddha Sattva status, there is no infringement of the other qualities, namely passion and ignorance. In the Vedic literature, there is mention of the Lord's expansion as the 4 personalities of Godhead: Vasudev, Sankarsana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Here, in the reappearance of the Mahat Tattva, the 4 expansions of Godhead occur. He who is seated within as Supersoul expands first as Vasudev. The Vasudev stage is free from infringement by material desires, and is the status in which one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the objective which is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Adbhuta. This is another feature of the Mahat Tattva. The Vasudeva expansion is also called Krishna consciousness, for it is free from all tinges of material passion and ignorance. This clear state of understanding helps one to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vasudev status is also explained in Bhagavad Gita as Kshetragya, which refers to the knower of the field of activities as well as the super knower. The living being who has occupied a particular type of body knows that body, but the super knower, Vasudev, knows not only a particular type of body, but also the field of activities in all the different varieties of bodies. In order to be situated in clear consciousness, or Krishna consciousness, one must worship Vasudev. Vasudev is Krishna alone. When Krishna, or Vishnu, is alone, without the accompaniment of his internal energy, he is Vasudev. When he is accompanied by his internal potency, he is called Dwarkadish. To have clear consciousness, or Krishna consciousness, one has to worship Vasudev. It is also explained in Bhagavad Gita that after many, many births, one surrenders to Vasudev. Such a great soul is very rare. In order to get release from the false ego, one has to worship Sankarsana. Sankarsana is also worshipped through Lord Shiva. The snakes which cover the body of Lord Shiva are representations of Sankarsana, and Lord Shiva is always absorbed in meditation upon Sankarsana. One who is actually a worshipper of Lord Shiva as a devotee of Sankarsana can be released from false material ego. If one wants to get free from mental disturbances, one has to worship Aniruddha. For this purpose, worship of the moon planet is also recommended in the Vedic literature. Similarly, to be fixed in one's intelligence, one has to worship Pradyumna, who is reached through the worship of Brahma. These matters are explained in Vedic literature. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Cha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Kapila Dev here is speaking to his mother Devahuti, and just previously he was talking about the Mahat Tattva, the various stages of the manifestation of the material world, the different qualities of the Mahat Tattva. And last we read, he's saying that the Mahat Tattva is the root of all cosmic manifestations, and that when that becomes manifest, it swallows the darkness that covered the effulgence at the time of dissolution. So because this whole passage is meant to answer Devahuti's questions about the nature of spiritual reality, and we understand that Kapila Dev is the teacher of Sankhya philosophy, or counting up the material elements, showing how they're different from the soul and spiritual reality. So now in text 21, we begin to get some guidance on how it is that the pure jiva, who is covered by all these things and stuck deeply embedded in the darkness of the material, prison house, can actually revive some of his natural state and begin to understand who he is, where he comes from, and who is the source of everything. So the discussion is of the mode of goodness. And it's said that the mode of goodness, or the Vasudev state, is the state of consciousness where one can begin to apprehend what's really going on outside the material, incarcerated experience. And he says this twice, that in the Shuddha Sattva status, there's no infringement of the other qualities, namely passion and ignorance. He uses this word infringement, like somebody coming in from outside and messing with you. That would be, you're infringing on my turf. So the clear status that we're hoping for, that all of this study is leading toward, is Krishna consciousness. But outside of that, there's these other things that are always trying to infringe on our consciousness and bring us down. But it is very interesting. And Ravindra Swarupa Prabhu likes to point this out at every opportunity, that when we speak about the regulative principles that we follow in Krishna consciousness, that these are not, as many people would want to think, they're not principles of morality. They're not moral principles that you simply follow to be good. They're principles that you follow in order to understand anything whatsoever. Without following those principles, you cannot come to the mode of goodness. And without being in the mode of goodness, you can't understand any of this whatsoever. And so the stage that is being described here is the Vasudeva stage. And he makes the point that Vasudeva is Krishna alone, which I thought was very interesting. When he's accompanied by his internal potency, he's called Dwarkadish. And to have clear consciousness, he says this twice. He says the same sentence twice in almost the very same way. To have clear consciousness or Krishna consciousness, one has to worship Vasudeva. And earlier he says, in order to be situated in clear consciousness or Krishna consciousness, one must worship Vasudeva. And he ties that paragraph up by the reference to the Bhagavad Gita, Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. It's very rare that someone gets to that point, because most people let themselves get infringed by those other qualities. And once you let yourself get infringed by passion and ignorance, you can go on in that way for a very long time without coming back around. The modes are always competing for space and time in our consciousness. And if we're not fixed in that mode of goodness or trying to become fixed in the mode of goodness, we're liable to be derailed by any crazy idea that comes along. The modes are constantly churning, as we've been reading, the way the Mahatattva comes through the agitation of the time element, and how Pradhan becomes activated. It's all a big soup made of the modes being stirred by the element of time, and we're just at the mercy of the waves of this stirring pot of material energy. So it's very rare that somebody is actually able to regain their clear consciousness and become uncovered from all the things like mental disturbances, as mentioned here, the various forms of the Chaturvyuha, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Vasudeva, Sankarshana are all name-checked here. And by worshiping these forms of the Lord, we can get free from mental disturbances, we can be fixed in our intelligence, we can get released from false ego, and to be situated in clear consciousness. So these are the benefits, some of the benefits mentioned. You see there's a comment, or a couple of comments.
Saraswati Mataji says, I'm a little confused about the statement that when Vishnu is alone without the accompaniment by his internal energy, he is Vasudeva. I thought Krishna, Vishnu, is always accompanied by internal energy potency. Isn't Lakshmi an expansion of Lord's eternal consort, Radharani, who is his Ladini Shakti, feature of his internal energy? Also, if we are worshipping Krishna, why would we need to worship the four expansions, since Krishna is the root of all his Vishnu Tattva expansions? And Maharaj says, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Sabditam.
I don't have the verse that Maharaj is quoting ready at my fingertips. And if I was to try to get it at my fingertips, you'd hear it in my microphone. So I'll begin by starting to address Saraswati Mataji's question, and hopefully Maharaj will also have something to say. That my understanding of the way the Lord appears in the material world is Paramatma, or here as he's described as Vasudeva. And he makes a point that's saying that that's Krishna alone. We don't see him with his internal energy as Paramatma. We just see Paramatma, him, apparently by himself. Although you could say that because the Lord is never without his pleasure potency, the Srivatsa is there on the body of the Lord. So the internal energy is never completely absent, but we don't see her in connection with the activities of Paramatma, or as being described here as Vasudev, as Krishna alone. And in reference to your comment about worshiping Krishna versus worshiping the various other expansions of Krishna, yeah, certainly worshiping Krishna is enough. There's no lack. Although it is spelled out here that one may worship all of these four forms, and certainly there's no harm in that. But we're being directed to Krishna and being reminded at every opportunity that Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. Would you like to expand on what you started to say there, Maharaj, in any way, either Sanskrit or English? Further commentary would be great to hear from you. Saraswati Mataji, if you wanted to say something, like you wanted to develop your question more, or did we begin to address your...
Maharaj says, I'll expand in a bit. Meanwhile, in response to Saraswati, here we're understanding the primal elements of material creation and their match to these four deities. So for our understanding, we're being given this full picture. And Praveen Krishna posts the verse, Sadvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Sabditam Yad Iyate Tatre Puman Apavrita Satve Cha Tasmin Bhagavan Vasudevo Hyadokshajo Me Namasa Vidyate. I am always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudev in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudev, is revealed without any covering. Saraswati Mataji says, thank you for clarification. And Maharaj says, but in our temple, Srila Prabhupada didn't establish worship of Vasudeva or Sankarshan, etc. By worshipping Krishna, we worship everyone. All other forms of the Lord.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Regarding the Srimad Bhagavatam verse.
Oh, thank you, Maharaj. I was just thinking of, I believe it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who says, Shraddha Shabde Vishvas Kahe Sudhrida Nischay, Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita Hai, that that person is said to have real faith when he understands that by worshiping Krishna, that one activity satisfies all requirements. Everyone is satisfied. Krishna Bhakti, Sarva Karma, everything is done if you just by Krishna Bhakti. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Maharaj says, the Srimad Bhagavatam verse is the one Srila Prabhupada most often quotes to define Vasudev. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Saditam. Pure goodness, Sattvam Vishuddham, is designated by the Shabda word Vasudev. Vishuddham, completely pure goodness.
Four, 3:23. Thank you so much, Maharaj. I wanted to take a moment also just to look at Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti's purport on this verse. The way it's translated by Bhanu Swami is a little different flavor to it. I'll read both. Same verse under discussion here. Mahat Tattva, which is represented by Chitta in the body, which is predominated by Sattva, which is pure, peaceful, and the place to worship the Lord, is also called Vasudev. And his commentary, he says, what is well known as Chitta is composed of Mahat Tattva. This means that Mahat Tattva is present in the individual body in the form of Chitta. It is pure, Satcham, and devoid of passion or other symptoms, Santam, Shantam. It is the place for worshiping the Supreme Lord and is known as Vasudev. Chitta, Ahankara, intelligence, and mind have the deities of Vasudev, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha respectively, who are worshipped for purifying these elements. Their presiding deities are Vishnu, Rudra, Brahma, and Chandra. Just personally speaking, when I hear explanations like this that are so far from, I feel, out of my reach of understanding, it's a source of great solace to me, because I can see that what we're being presented with is so comprehensive and so elaborate. The full picture of the whole process of Krishna consciousness, developing Krishna consciousness, understanding the various aspects of material nature, how the Lord is involved in his various manifestations for specific purposes, each one to be worshipped for a specific reason. All these things are to me more and more proof that what we're being given is not at all it's a complete, cogent, comprehensive philosophy, and there's no end to it. And because I've never I can't even imagine an end to it. That you can read commentary after commentary. To me, that's like looking at a living cell under a microscope. Sariputta Prabhu gives this example that when you're looking at a man-made substrate, like a chunk of metal or a piece of plastic under a microscope, at a certain level of magnification, it all starts to look the same. It doesn't, there's not an increasing layers of complexity the deeper you go. But in a living cell, he says you just can't see the end of the complexity of it. That's the nature of life, because Krishna is behind life. It's our understanding. And it's the same with this philosophy. There's no end to the depth that you can go. You keep turning up the magnification, and there's always going to be something there that will surprise you. So, any other comments? Or yes? Okay, Maharaj says the purport to 4.323 is also relevant to what we're studying. So let's look at that. 4.323. This chapter is called Talks Between Lord Shiva and Sati. And this is Lord Shiva speaking to his wife. Satvam Vishudhang Vasudeva Shabditam Yariyate Tatra Puman Apavritaha Satve Tasmin Bhagavan Vasudevo Hyadhoksha Jome Namasa Vidhiyate. Lord Shiva says, I am always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudeva in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudeva, is revealed without any covering. And then purport, Prabhupada says, the living entity is constitutionally pure. Asango hyayang purusha. In the Vedic literature, it is said that the soul is always pure and uncontaminated by material attachment. The identification of the body with the soul is due to misunderstanding. As soon as one is fully Krishna conscious, it is to be understood that one is in his pure, original, constitutional position. This state of existence is called Shuddha Sattva, which means that it is transcendental to the material qualities. Since this Shuddha Sattva existence is under the direct action of the internal potency, in this state, the activities of material consciousness stop. For example, when iron is put into a fire, it becomes warm. And when red hot, although it is iron, it acts like fire. Similarly, when copper is surcharged with electricity, its action as copper stops. It acts as electricity. Bhagavad Gita 14:26 also confirms that anyone who engages in unadulterated devotional service to the Lord is at once elevated to the position of pure Brahman. Mang chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Therefore, Shuddha Sattva, as described in this verse, is the transcendental position, which is technically called Vasudeva. Vasudeva is also the name of the person from whom Krishna appears. This verse explains that the pure state is called Vasudeva because in that state, Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is revealed without any covering. To execute unadulterated devotional service, therefore, one must follow the rules and regulations of devotional service without desire to gain material profit by fruitive activities or mental speculation. This purport is quite long and goes on, and I think I've probably read more than my usual share for the evening. So we could either continue reading this purport and I can hand the reading off to someone else, or we could move forward in our third canto reading. Let's see. it's so nice to read this purport. It's so harmonious and really lends another added layer and texture to what we're reading. Surabhi Kunj Mataji, would you like to read another paragraph of this purport to 4.3.23? Is that something that you have available to you? Or is that too much to ask?
I need to find it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be starting with the paragraph in the purport that starts with "in pure devotional service." Just a quick note before you find the verse, the naming of Vasudeva and Vasudev. This is called patronymics. In English, we have if a person is the son of someone, that's where the surname's Johnson. If he's the son of John, he'd be called Johnson. And so Vasudev is the name of Krishna's father. And since Krishna comes from Vasudev, he's called Vasudev. There's all kinds of examples of that. Were you able to find the verse yet, Mataji?
Yes.
Okay, so in the paragraph that starts with "in pure devotional service," maybe the third paragraph?
Yes, I'm there. In pure devotional service, one simply serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a matter of duty, without reason and without being impeded by material conditions. That is called Shuddha Sattva or Vasudeva, because in that stage, the Supreme Person, Krishna, is revealed in the heart of the devotee. Srila Jiva Goswami has very nicely described this Vasudeva or Shuddha Sattva in his Bhagavat Sandarbha. He explains that Astottara Satta is added to the name of the spiritual master to indicate one who is situated in Shuddha Sattva or in the transcendental state of Vasudeva. The word Vasudeva is also used for other purposes. For example, Vasudeva also means one who is everywhere or all-pervading. The sun is also called Vasudeva Sabditam. The word Vasudeva may be utilized for different purposes, but whatever purpose we adopt, Vasudeva means the all-pervading or localized Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita 7:19, it is also stated, Vasudeva Sarvam Iti. Factual realization is to understand Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and surrender unto him. Vasudeva is the ground wherein Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is revealed. When one is free from the contamination of material nature and is situated in pure Krishna consciousness or in the Vasudeva state, Vasudeva, the Supreme Person, is revealed. This state is also called Kaivalya, which means pure consciousness. Jnanam Sattvikam Kaivalyam. When one is situated in pure transcendental knowledge, one is situated in Kaivalya. Therefore, Vasudeva also means Kaivalya, a word which is generally used by impersonalists. Impersonal Kaivalya is not the last stage of realization. In Krishna consciousness, Kaivalya, when one understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one is successful. In that pure state, by hearing, chanting, remembering, etc., because of the development of knowledge of the signs of Krishna, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All these activities are under the guidance of the internal energy of the Supreme Lord. The action of the internal potency is also described in this verse as apavrita, free from any covering. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his name, his form, his quality, his paraphernalia, etc.,
being transcendental, are beyond material nature. It is not possible to understand any one of them with the materialistic senses. When the senses are purified by the discharge of pure devotional service, Rishikena Rishikesha, Sevanam Bhakti Uchete, the pure senses can see Krishna without covering. Now one may inquire that since factually the devotee has the same material existential body, how is it possible that the same materialistic eyes become purified by devotional service? The example, as stated by Lord Chaitanya, is that devotional service cleanses the mirror of the mind. In a clean mirror, one can see one's face very distinctly. Similarly, simply by cleansing the mirror of the mind, one can have a clear conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 8.8, Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena. By executing one's prescribed duties in devotional service, Chaitasha Nanya Gamina, or simply by hearing about God and chanting about Him. If one's mind is always engaged in chanting and hearing and is not allowed to go elsewhere, one can realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead as confirmed by Lord Chaitanya by the Bhakti Yoga process, beginning from hearing and chanting. One can cleanse the heart and mind, and thus one can clearly see the face of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Shiva said that since his heart was always filled with the conception of Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because of the Supreme Lord's presence within his mind and heart, he was always offering obeisances unto that Supreme Godhead. In other words, Lord Shiva is always in trance, samadhi. This samadhi is not under the control of the devotee. It is under the control of Vasudeva, for the entire internal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead acts under his order. Of course, the material energy also acts by his order, but his direct will is specifically executed through the spiritual energy. Thus, by his spiritual energy, he reveals himself. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.6, Sambhavamyatma Mayaya. Atma Mayaya means internal potency. By his sweet will, he reveals himself by his internal potency, being satisfied by the transcendental loving service of the devotee. The devotee never commands, "My dear Lord, please come here so that I can see you." It is not the position of the devotee to command the Supreme Personality of Godhead to come before him or to dance before him. There are many so-called devotees who command the Lord to come before them, dancing. The Lord, however, is not subject to anyone's command, but if he is satisfied by one's pure devotional activities, he reveals himself. Therefore, a meaningful word in this verse is adhoksaja, for it indicates that the activities of our material senses will fail to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One cannot realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by the attempt of one's speculative mind. But if one desires, he can subdue all the material activities of his senses. And the Lord, by manifesting his spiritual energy, can reveal himself to the pure devotee. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals himself to the pure devotee, the devotee has no other duty than to offer him respectful obeisances. The Absolute Truth reveals himself to the devotee in his form. He is not formless. Vasudeva is not formless, for it is stated in this verse that as soon as the Lord reveals himself, the devotee offers his obeisances. Obeisances are offered to a person, not to anything impersonal. One should not accept the Mayavad interpretation that Vasudeva is impersonal. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Prapadyate, one surrenders. One surrenders to a person, not to impersonal non-duality. Whenever there is a question of surrendering or offering obeisances, there must be an object of surrender or obeisances.
Thank you so much for all that reading. Do you have any comments? You're reading for quite some time.
No.
I'm glad Maharaj suggested this.
Maharaj says, notable to see that realization of Vasudev takes place by the grace of the internal energy.
Yes, and I was thinking, coming off of Saraswati Mata's earlier question, that we don't see, Vasudeva is Krishna alone, yet the internal energy is still working. That's still how Krishna operates. She may not be apparently visible or manifest, but that's how Krishna operates. All right. So let us then go back and look at we got a very, oh yes, Maharaj says, also notable to see the Vasudev connection. We see it all over the place in these two purports for sure. Vasudev comes from Vasudev. I think we have time to start reading our next verse, text 22. Oh, wait, there's more.
Maharaj says,
oh, please go ahead.
Vasudev is Krishna's father, and Vasudev is also pure consciousness. Vasudev is also pure consciousness. Vasudev. And Vasudev. Krishna is Vasudev. And pure consciousness of Krishna's father is Vasudev.
Jai. All right. So it's okay. Maybe we can move on, do one more verse at least. Text number 22. Saraswati Mataji, would you like to read text 22? Is that something? Oh, okay. Sorry, not available today. Vijay Krishna Prabhu, are you available to read? Would you like to read text 22?
Yes, Ekendra Dasa Prabhu, I would like to read text 22. May I?
Please do.
If you insist.
I could not be more insistent, Prabhu.
Thank you very much. You're most kind. Vachatvam avikaritvam shantatvam iti chetasaha vrittibir lakshanam proktam yathapam prakriti para. Translation. After the manifestation of the Mahatattva, these features appear simultaneously. As water in its natural state, before coming in contact with earth, is clear, sweet, and unruffled, so the characteristic traits of pure consciousness are complete serenity, clarity, and freedom from distraction. Purport. The pure status of consciousness or Krishna consciousness exists in the beginning. Just after creation, consciousness is not polluted. The more one becomes materially contaminated, however, the more consciousness becomes obscured. In pure consciousness, one can perceive a slight reflection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As in clear, unagitated water, free from impurities, one can see everything clearly. So, in pure consciousness or Krishna consciousness, one can see things as they are. One can see the reflection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and one can see his own existence as well. This state of consciousness is very pleasing, transparent, and sober. In the beginning, consciousness is pure.
Prabhu, some thoughts to share?
I always like to hear from Jayadvaita Maharaj first, if Maharaj has anything to say. We can wait and see if Maharaj posts in the
Maharaj
chat.
says this verse will unfold further in the next one with its very significant purport. But here, reinforcing, the original state of consciousness is pure. But it becomes contaminated by material association.
Sorry, I was muted. Is it some more to say, Maharaj, or is that all for the moment? As I was reading the verse, or Vijay Krishna Prabhu, you can please go ahead because you read it.
No,
Maharaj says, well, the characteristics of pure consciousness are also delineated here and worth noting.
Right. Thank you, Maharaj. Please go ahead, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. Clarity.
Freedom from distraction, peacefulness, serenity. Lakshanam. These are the characteristics. So here are the characteristics of pure consciousness. Pure like pure water.
All right. Thank you. All right, Vijay Krishna Prabhu. You've got your wish. We got to hear from Maharaj. Thank you for.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for your indispensable comments, if I may say it. Hare Krishna.
Aye.
Maharaj says, just repeating.
It is now 7:58, so our time is drawing to a close. And let's see who would like to lead Kirtan this evening. Vijay Krishna Prabhu, must we insist that you lead Kirtan on our Friday night?
If you insist, I'll do it.
Yes, please.
And if Maharaj agrees with that. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Ekandra Das Prabhu, if I may ask, Premadwani
Jagatam
prayers.
Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajakacarya Ashtotar Sata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, for the kirtan. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for being here for us. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami Maharaj and friends Ki Jai.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari
Thank
Hari
you again
Bol.
so much for being here, everyone. And hope to see you again on Monday. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Gurudev. Hari Bol.